Hello, and thank you for joining this session. Today we're going to continue working on our chatbot. And just to give everyone sort of an idea of where we're at the point now where we're able to show previously recorded chat messages against previously existing sessions. So here we have a session from a couple of weeks ago where there was more activity, so it's kind of nice to actually take a look at it, and we can see all of the information here. So the idea that we want to try and do with this is make sure that as we get to different sections of a video through actual playback, I want it to actually show up on here correctly. So the chat information that is current is what's actually being shown. So one of the things that I'm going to do right off is make sure that we have an actual Vimeo ID for this episode. We haven't had one yet, so I want to go and do that. So let's go to projects. I'm going to do the same thing on the live site to make sure we have the right video. Log back in. All right. Just so that we have something more meaningful to look at. So we're at the continuation token. Here we go. And I'm going to edit it so I can get the ID. There we go. All right, so as soon as I add, it says it has it. Session 81. Oh, okay, so this actually is an old Vimeo ID. The system is set up now that when you create a new episode and it actually goes live, it creates a Vimeo ID placeholder that I can upload into. In the development environment, I end up deleting those Vimeo IDs. So that's why this one is actually broken. So let's add that. Now if I reload, if we go visit the Astrocast link, we should actually have actual content now that we can look at against the chat message. So right now the chat messages are loading in their entirety. It's not actually what we want to do in the long run. So let's go check everything out that we have currently running. We have templates set up for each of the source types, so Twitch, Discord, and YouTube. We have a template that is a placeholder for the messages themselves. So each individual message is going to look a certain way. And then we have our web component Astrocasts chat. We're passing in the selector for the message template. We maybe don't have to do that. I started out doing that, but I'm not doing that for these, for example. So I kind of made a choice there that we'll just have to live with for now. We're passing in session ID, polling URL, author info URL, and whether or not the episode we're watching is in progress. So let's go ahead then and jump into the web component, which in Astrocast chat. Here's something that we probably want to take care of right away. This is where we are currently handling that ID that I passed in earlier. So the session chat message template selector, where I'm creating the icons is here. And I'm just getting the actual element ID. I'm just assuming that's going to be there. So I think I might actually change that here as well. So let me go back real quick and let's just do this for now. It's going to simplify things a little bit for us. And I think that's going to be a good thing. So query selector, instead we're going to do get element by ID, and then pass in session chat message template. Hello, Jose. How's it going? Thanks for joining chat. So one of the things I'd like to consider doing now is to create this messages container as a template as well. So we have a message template, and I think I want a message list template. So let's go ahead and copy this for now. Session chat message list template. And this is going to allow us to not have to do this nonsense to create something. So messages container. All right, so we're setting that here. So instead of setting that to document create element, let's do what we're doing up here. Get the object, get the template, and get the content from it. So message list template. Oh, there we go. My bad on that. All right, so that means I think we can get rid of all of this, but I want to make sure I keep these classes. So let me do that real quick. So inside here, let's do div. So we had flex, flex call h64, overflow scroll. This was actually a dash. MB8 shadow rounded. All right. Rounded. All right. So this should be the template. And this actually, there might actually be an easier way to do this. I don't know if this needs to be a template, if I'm honest. But let's keep it like that anyway. All right. So I think we can get rid of this stuff. Now I'm not exactly sure what content is, so I'm going to go ahead and reload this to see if this actually works as advertised. Let's go check this out. We do have the thing watching, so let's see if we get our chat, and we don't. So I'm guessing that that content array thing that we're doing, this message list template dot content, isn't actually what we want. Get element by ID, content. It seems like it should be though. Let me make sure I have this ID correct. Let's just put something in it. All right, so it's actually displaying it, so that should be right. Why? All right, so let's do. I'm guessing that I need to actually get like a node list or something. It's a document fragment, so it is actually putting content in there. It's just not displaying it. Ah, interesting. So let's see. So if we get template element, template.content, clone node true. I wonder if that's what we have to do. So the content there. Let's see if that works. Because it doesn't make sense, but maybe that's what we need to do. All right, so that didn't help any. Let me make sure I didn't miss something here. So get element by ID, get the content, append child, template content, dot clone node. Still a document fragment, so it gets all of the information. All right, I'm going to try something slightly different. Can I do first child? Yeah. And then let's try that, see if that does something different for us. Ah, pen child on node. Node type does not support. Okay. So I think first child in that case was this white space leading up to hello, or the white space leading up to here. I bet that's it. Error. That was nowhere near as easy as I thought it should have been. Wow. So I don't think this template bought us anything at all. I think that, well, other than the fact that it didn't render first, but otherwise it was not useful in any way. Huh, okay. Oh, you know what I think was happening. I didn't scroll enough. This will be good if this is what actually happened. Let's see if I'm right on that. No. .content. No, I'm wrong. All right. So getting the template and then getting information out of the template and then cloning that first at child is apparently what we need to do. It's kind of annoying, but I'm sure I will figure this out at some other point to figure out how to do that. All right, so let's see here. No, it's not working because there are spaces again. Okay, so now we're back sort of to where we started. So the information that we have here is the timestamp. We actually have the IDs. So let's see. Let's head back into the web component itself. This was sort of meaningless, what we just did, but it was helpful because I didn't want to have to maintain this particular chunk of HTML in pure JavaScript. It just didn't make sense. This doesn't make sense either, so I'll get back to this and refactor it at some other point. Okay, so the process right now is that we created a store that is in charge of getting the actual messages, the raw messages. And then we have something called the timeline. And the timeline is responsible for creating the actual DOM messages or returning the DOM message if we have one. The thing that we haven't done anywhere in here is do any sort of sorting based on something like time. So what I think we need to do is, let's see, I had store, I was going to do some stuff with store based on read until, but I don't think we're going to do that there. I think read until is something that is going to be more appropriate on the timeline itself. So let's do read and until equals 0 or null. Actually, I don't know about that. Let's just do read for now. And what I want to do for read is, at this point, I want to start using the do some sorting. So at the point where something asks the timeline to read messages, let's actually do messages. That's where I wanted to do the sorting. So I think we had sort code. Yeah, we just removed the sort code. Actually, I wish I hadn't done that just yet. I'll have to look that up again to see how we need to do the sort for that. But we're going to read the messages. Right now, we're just storing the DOM messages, just keyed off of ID. What we don't have currently is a distinction between the message DOM and the original underlying message. So I think what we need to do, let's do return this message DOM's message ID. I think when we store this, let's do message and message DOM. So this will give us the ability to keep information that was originally in the message. It's still keyed off of the message's ID, but we can get the information from the original message as well. And then let's return this value. Now, this is going to break something. If I reload now, things should fall apart because I think we're expecting that function to return something else. So let's go ahead and reload. Yeah, so message DOM is not defined. Actually, that's something different. This message. So let's do, there we go. So we didn't actually call it message DOM locally. All right, so parameter 1 is not of type node. Okay, so this makes sense. So what's going on now is the thing that's actually pushing these onto the messages container is not getting a DOM node. List, messages, list. There we go. Okay, so here's where we're just getting the message DOM directly. So let's do create message DOM. This is where things should be a little smarter. Let's do. All right, let's go back here. I'm going to undo this. Turn this message. So internally we keep it, but this function can just return the message DOM directly. All right, so that gets everything back to where we were, except now we have the ability to dig into message itself for the raw information. So read, its job is going to be to pass back information sorted by some information. And right now, we don't really have a clear idea if we're going to actually sort based on timestamp or if we're going to sort based on ID. I think we probably want to sort based on ID just because that's going to be simpler. But we do have to pay attention to the actual timestamp. So let's say read messages. I'm going to do a search for sort moment dates. All right, so I think I'd already done this at one point. Render series. All right, so I think I can probably just do this if I'm going to do something based on the ID. So let's return. And does sort give you a copy? think maybe it does. So we return this .message DOMs. All right, so we have a .message.id minus b .message.id. I think that would actually work to just sort them. The other thing that we want to do then is to make sure that we don't go past whatever read messages timestamp is. So let's do read until UTC, and let's maybe do UTC, what is it, X, moment. So UTC mode, so put it assumed. All right. Well, let's do see what happens here. And then sort. So we also want to filter. So let's do JavaScript filter. All right, so pass the test implemented. All right, so let's do sort.filter. Let's actually change this to arrow notation because I really like it. So dot sort and then dot filter. Let's see, a.message.timestamp. Diff. Okay, so there's an is after. So we can do is before. So read until is before read until UTC. And then we need this. So I believe this will do what I want it to do. If it does, I will be super excited. So the next bit gets a little complicated because right now we have a subscriber that is creating these messages and transferring them essentially from the store to the timeline. And then the result is then appended immediately to the messages container. So I don't want to do that anymore. So let's go ahead and do this. Now everything should continue to work as expected, except it shouldn't show us any chat messages. So it is still bringing everything in correctly, but it's not actually displaying anything. So let's see if we can figure out how to change that. This is where I think we're going to get into throttle and debounce. So let me look at where I was using that before. Let's see. Let me do a quick search. I don't remember where I used it. Oh, I think I just made them available. Throttle. To check the actual code then. Let's do throttle. Nope. Debounce. No, so it must be on session. Could be on session. There we go. So we double check how throttle actually works. So useful rate limiting. So the delay ensures has stopped being called this time when ensures call executed. All right, so we call this such that it won't actually fire any more frequently than delay. Values around 100 or 250 are most useful. Null defaults to false. Let me execute every delay milliseconds while the throttle function is being called. So yeah, that makes sense. We want to use the default. So I think throttle is actually what we want in this case. So let's bring things in the right way. All right, so we'll do throttle. And let's see how we used it before. So we defined what we wanted to do, and then we created a throttle, or created essentially a callback. So this throttle, I think, creates a callback that manages its own state. So report now. So let's say redraw. And let's not do that. And then report now, redraw now. Not going to use data. All right, so now we can use this redraw function anywhere we want to cause the timeline to redraw. It's essentially what we're going to be doing here. So adding to the subscriber, what we want to do is do this functionality inside redraw now. And then inside the subscriber, we want to start the potential for redrawing every time the store transfers something new to the timeline. So let's go ahead and say redraw. We don't have to give it any data at this point. We just need it to know that we are redrawing. Eventually, we might actually have to send in a date. But for now, let's do redraw now and see if and when that ever gets called. So redraw now got called first initially, and now it should wait until 5 seconds after this last one gets called. At least that's what I'm thinking should happen. And it didn't. So that did not work as I expected. So redraw. Let's try this again. I wouldn't have thought that redraw could have happened right then. Let's do this for 500. No trailing. I bet that was actually the problem. Do this back to 5. There we go. So it waited. It didn't seem like it waited long enough for that. I thought this would have been 5 seconds. Is that not it? Let's see what the delay is. 0 greater than milliseconds. Okay, well, either way, it did ensure that the redraw was only called twice there. Let's put this to something weird like 100. I'm guessing we're going to see an occasional, yeah, we're seeing redraws happening more frequently. So what this is doing is ensuring that we're setting some reasonable delay to make sure that redraws don't happen more frequently than they need to, because redraws are where the work is actually going to start happening, of doing like the sorts and things like that. So we don't necessarily want the sort to happen every single time. It's actually happening way more. Oh, because it's taking longer. Ah, right, that's what's going on. So it's not actually... wonder if I should try debounce. I wonder if that's the behavior I'm looking for. So throttle... executes a function, and debounce. Debounce, unlike throttling, guarantees the function is only executed a single time, either at the beginning of a series or at the end. I think that might actually be what I'm looking for. Delay. Let's try that and see if that behavior, because this is not what I expected. This is different than what I expected. So let's go back here. Rather than throttle, let's do debounce. And now what I'm expecting to see is, well, 1 second after we have finished creating information, I want to see a redraw now. Okay. So we only saw one redraw now, which is what we wanted. So that was a second. Let's set this to 500 milliseconds, because this is going to impact how quickly things will be shown. Okay, so this is still... things are coming more slowly than 500 milliseconds, so I think that might be too low. So let's just leave it at 1 second for now. Okay. So now we can actually try and do something in redraw now. So let's go here. The thing that we need to do is read until. So we'll use our timeline, read messages, and we're going to append. We're gonna have to do a for each. let's look at read messages does. So this is going to give us an array. Each. I want to double check JavaScript each. Yeah, so we should be able to do for each. We'll do message DOM. And we're going to append that to the message. So redraw now. I think we actually we don't want to pass back the raw information. So let's return .map. We'll do a.message DOM. So we'll only ever get, or at least outside the timeline, we're only ever dealing with this message DOM, but we have message itself to reference internally for things like this. So let's see what happens here. Let's do reload. It's reading in all of the chats, and then, oop, message DOM sort is not a function. Are you sure? Oh. Yeah. All right, object.keys. So I forgot that this was an object. So that it uses, well, I don't know. When I was doing message DOM, you can't sort objects per properties like that. So we actually need to do the message keys. Property ID of undefined. Yeah. Let's see what that was doing here. Ordered key. Sort for each. All right. So the problem here is that now we have an array of keys, not values. So I think what I'm going to try to do, which I've not done before, is key and then message DOM's key. So then from this point now we're dealing with the objects instead of the keys. I think that will work. All right, message container of undefined. All right, so that means this stuff theoretically worked. So let's go back here. Might be a cannot read property messages container of undefined. All right. Here we go. So now we have everything sorted correctly, which is awesome. Hopefully I have everything sorted correctly. I don't actually have the IDs. If we reload this a few times, we'd probably pretty quickly see whether this all comes up correctly. All right, so now for the fun part. And we only have 20 minutes to work on this, so this will be very fun. We need to know, before we display any chat, where we are at. So right now, the way that Vimeo works, let's pull up Vimeo. Vimeo gives us this report now functionality that we're already doing. We're using session video ID data, and we're using report on time update. So this is player. So it's going to do some stuff on the time update. This is also the placeholder for where I assumed we would also hook in to report on where we are at. This is all based on this being a user. However, that isn't the way that it should be used. All right, so if app user, so we're not actually going to do this in this same section. What we're going to do is set an additional time update to do something with our chat interface. So we're not going to call it report data. We're going to call something else. So we need to get our chat. So let's see here. It's Astrocasts chat, right? Yeah. So let's see inside the JavaScript. All right, so query selector Astrocast chat. So we're going to hope there's only going to be one of them on the page, which I think is fine now. And then let's do chat dot date time. Oh, actually, you know what? No. How are we doing that? Let's set attribute. What's actually doing that? Yeah, let's do that. So set attribute, and we'll do time. And we'll use, let's see, what is it? Data dot something. Let's look at Vimeo time update. No. Reference. There we go. Duration, percent, seconds. All right, so let's do data.seconds. if I like doing it this way. Let's try this instead. Not sure if this actually works, so we'll have to try it. All right, so we're gonna see chat show up. And then let's start playing and see if we get console logs. Not actually seeing them. Astrocast chat. Oh, I wonder if we can have multiples. Or if I needed to hard refresh. There we go. So we're getting a bunch of falses. That's coming from where? All right, so chat doesn't exist. Query command state. Come on, Beau. Oh, good old autocomplete. Query selector. Yeah. All right, let's try it again. Get all of the info in, redraw now. There we go. Cool, so our chat app is actually able to receive that. So this is the callback that we're getting. So that's good. Stop logging chat because we don't need that. Let's do something now where, let's see. We aren't actually storing any of these objects on the class itself, but I think we might need to do that. So we didn't do anything with store. Let's do stop timeline. All right, so this means we should be able to figure out we should be able to do our own redrawing. Actually, what might be easier is to not do that directly, because what we can do is handle this in redraw now if we can instead track where we currently are in time. So let's do a couple of things. We need to know the session start date. So let's go back here to where our, there we go, Astrocast session information is. So let's do session in progress broadcast. Here's where we need get UTC time. UTC. Let's see if this actually gives me an error or not. Catchable fatal error. Date time cannot be converted to a string. All right, so let's do date C. Let's see what that does. Yeah, so this value might actually work. So this is the broadcast time in UTC. We can actually use the scheduled broadcast, I think. Scheduled broadcast. Yeah, so that has the same value. Okay. Let's do... So if we can get this value, we can get that up here. We'll do const broadcast compute. And we'll do moment. So if we know when it was broadcast, we can use this value. Now it's going to depend on if we're in progress or not, but I'm not going to worry about that just yet. So broadcast, record time update. So this is going to start out this dot current time is equal to broadcast. So we're going to do this first. And then let's do current time dot add data dot seconds. And let's see how moment actually does that. Moment add unit value. All right, so we'll do unit seconds. This dot current time equals this dot. So we should store broadcast time. This dot broadcast. First thing we want is this dot broadcast. We'll do. Then let's do data seconds. Current time. All right. All right, so if we play, is it giving us anything? It's not. is it not? Oh, that's why. I don't know why sometimes I don't actually get error messages when other times I do. It's a little weird. All right, so let's see here. If I stop this, those should stop coming in. Broadcast. Current time. It's a moment object. Doesn't look like it's actually doing the adding there. Let's see, so this current time equals this dot broadcast that add. So many seconds. Doesn't look like it actually did that. Why is that not working? VARB. I wonder if this has to be second. Or it could be that data seconds is not an int. Well, let's see if this does anything different. No, it's still not doing it. Broadcast time is the same. Actually that is different. Current time. January 31st. Round to the nearest integer. Alright, so maybe that's the problem. Let's do broadcast current time equals this broadcast dot clone, And then current time, clone. So if it's mutating things as it goes, that's going to be part of the problem, I think. It still doesn't look like it's doing it. 130. How do I format stuff? String formats. So maybe it's just not. That's awesome. Supernova just said that their wife came in and pointed at DevTools and said, I need to get something that from there. Awesome. So let's see. How do I get just a normal format? After cleaning. How do I output? Display, here we go. Dot format. Let's just do dot format. So broadcast dot format. Sadly, I don't think I'm getting as far today as I had hoped to. It does look like it is changing this, though. Broadcast is staying the same. And I'm 23 minutes in, and it does say 23. Interesting. This might actually be working then, which makes me pretty happy, although I'm not sure why I couldn't see it the other way. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to take that as a win. This also means that hopefully what we can do is finish this quickly, like 5 more minutes. Let's see if I can do that. So we're setting current time to be the current time that we're watching. Redraw now should be able to message container, pen child. Read messages. Here, we're going to send this dot current time. Is that where? So yeah, current time. Redraw now. I think this redraw function I'm going to expose. Draw, redraw. Record time update. So we're going to update the current time, and then we're going to redraw. Although, this could get a little sticky. Redraw now. I think I actually want to expose redraw now. Because I don't want, ooh, I want a throttle. It's going to get messy. All right, so we have redraw. Let's rename this to redraw debounced. And then redraw debounced. Let's redraw debounced, and this dot draw throttled. We want the throttle behavior for we want debounce for when messages are coming in, but for the messages that are coming in from the chat, they're coming frequently, so we actually want that throttled. So it's subtly different what we want when. So let's do redraw throttled. Throttle. Actually, I don't need window dot. And for redraw throttled, I think a second works for that as well. So redraw throttled, redraw debounced are both accessible. So then I can do this redraw throttled. And redraw throttled. Okay, so it's going to be really easy to test if this works. And if it works, I'm going to call it a great day. All right, so current time of undefined. Yeah. There we go. Let's try it again. Out of the gate, we should only see the messages up to when the session started. So that is what it's done. Oh my goodness, I can't tell you how excited I am. It only shows up to hooray, because that's all it should be able to see at that point. I'm going to move the cursor back to the very beginning of the episode, and let's see what happens if we start playing. So, so far it's just this. Let's jump in a little bit further. 2 minutes in, it shows, and here we go. At 22, yeah, so that makes sense. Let's hop back in a little more, and it's exposed something from Supernova. 14 minutes in, looks like there isn't anything new here. Oh, it's not playing. There we go. Oh, maybe it got stuck on something here. Let me switch up to 26 minutes. It's still playing, and we now have a bunch of new stuff. Let's see. Cool, so now we have this little bit. This is right after Zulfor gave us a link to their website. So that's almost exactly what we should be seeing. Cool. I feel super positive about this. I think this is mostly, working. This is cool. I'm pretty happy about it. Now for, yeah, now it's going to take a lot of cleanup, but at least getting to this point to make sure that these things work the way they're advertised, I'm super excited. So thank you all for joining. I'm going to figure out what the next steps are. There's definitely still a lot to work on here, but we finally got to the point where there is some syncing with what's actually being played. Actually, let's see if it hides stuff. I'm going to go back to 7 minutes, and in theory, it should rewrite this. Oh, it didn't. All right, well, that's something that we can take a look at. So I know that going forward works. Apparently going backwards does not for some reason. Seems like it shouldn't Oh, we're not ever deleting anything. We're only ever appending. Yeah, okay. Anyway, thanks again for joining, and looking forward to talking to you all again tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.